It's time for Reason.
If you have a $200, $300, $400 cell phone bill every month for you and the family, then you have a problem because we're paying you what the market actually sets for you and for your job skills. We're paying market value for you, and you're not going to manipulate the market on what the value of your job is just because you can't figure out your own personal budget. That's on you. That's not on me. We need to remember that we need to take on personal responsibility.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting, KGPT TV, channel 2610. What's up? Welcome in. It is a Thursday. The pre-Friday celebration has officially begun here on the Voice of Reason. We are celebrating. Let's carpe diem all over this place. Let's have a great one. Let's enjoy because the weekend, a holiday weekend, right around the corner. Let's remember the purpose of the holiday. Let's enjoy it a little bit, and let's kick off realistically, let's kick off summertime right here in South Central Kansas. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It is great to have you along today. Lots of stuff to get to today. There's a lot of big news happening. Good, bad, and indifferent, by the way. Mostly good, though. I'm realizing mostly good news that we're seeing fly out around the state of Kansas. We're seeing good news come out of the national level. We're seeing good news come out of international issues. We're seeing good news around all over the place, even though the progressives like to stick their head in the sand, pretend that they're the animal that just doesn't care. They just don't like to care. They like to put their heads in the sand, put their earmuffs on, put their blinders on, and just walk in a straight line while they continue to babble about themselves incoherently about how evil and terrible Donald Trump and the conservatives across the entire nation really are. We don't care. We like to enjoy, and let's actually bring it to light. Let's shake their lapels. Let's actually wake them up. Let's take off their blinders and open their eyes to the world that is common sense, reason, and normality to some degree. Welcome in 316-721-8255. We do have a lot to get to today. It's going to be a fun show. I do want to start off with one of the most important issues that we could possibly talk about. This is truly, honestly, like the most important thing that is going on ever. That's what I'm talking about. It is the most important thing anybody could even fathom to discuss. It is something that is a life changer. It is something that is absolutely detrimental to society, and we need to be aware of it. So here's our breaking news of the day. Big story of the morning is, of course, Donald Trump cannot block followers on Twitter, according to a federal judge. That is by far the most important news that will ever come out of the mainstream. To hell with North Korea. To hell with the agricultural trade with China. To heck with Russia and the Russian collusion. Like that's even a story. To heck with the low unemployment rates across the nation. No. It does not matter. Trump's tweets are the most important issue that we should be focused on, and a federal judge has taken the time to hear this case. The federal judge has taken time to rule on this case, and they've ruled shocker against Donald Trump and said that he is not allowed to block followers on Twitter. Could you imagine, first off, the time and the effort it took for a federal judge to say, yeah, you know what? They've brought a lawsuit because that's what liberal progressives do, is just bring lawsuits and create the lawsuits. Welcome to the world of litigation. No longer do we have the American dream to be able to work hard and prosper, but the American dream to take things to court and then be able to decide them there and then get whatever we want to in court because of judicial activism. But now we have individuals that I don't like the fact that Donald Trump blocked me on his Twitter because I was calling him names and I was being a troll and I was just making a mockery of him and I was just attacking him on social media, and he blocked me so he didn't have to see it. And oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
Oh my God, no!
I know, it's a terrible, horrible thing, right? But that's what the federal judge had to say as of yesterday. President Donald Trump cannot block users on his Twitter feed, according to a federal judge in New York that ruled yesterday. July 2017 was when the suit was filed by the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, as well as 7 other plaintiffs who have been blocked on Twitter by Trump. Their feelings were hurt. Their feelings were hurt. That was it. That's why they tweeted a horrible thing to Trump, because they have the right to be able to trash him and call him evil names, and he has to take it. He has to accept it. He has to eat it. And then if he blocked it, then he violated their First Amendment rights. Give me a break. First off, again, the stupidity of a federal judge even taking this case is completely absurd. But I open it up to you. Is it okay for a public official, an elected public official, to block people from their social media? Or do they have a duty to sit there and take it and eat it from anybody if they're trolls and they never stop? Because, come on, you've never seen anybody on social media do that, right? You've never seen anybody sit there and do nothing but just post 50 different times on a post of someone they don't like, just attacking them viciously. I've had to block a few people from my social media. Not too many. Not very many. I've had 1 or 2, but there have been those where no matter what I do, I make a comment or I make a post or I post a link to a story or I make a comment on social media, and all of a sudden, bam, there they are. They got to trash it. They got to make a comment. Before anybody else. I mean, they are on it. It's like they're watching to see as soon as whenever you post something, then all of a sudden they have to comment on it because you're in the wrong, I hate you, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows about it. So, as an elected official, is it okay for them to block someone on Twitter if they are a ridiculous little troll thinking that they're doing something productive? Or do they have to take it? Do they have to keep them on there? And is it a violation of the First Amendment? Now, you still can voice your opinion. We're not shutting down your Twitter account. You can still voice your opinion. You just can't go onto his personal page and do that. To me, that's not a violation of the First Amendment in any way, shape, or form. That's someone who just wants to block ridiculous trolls on their page. But the federal judge taking the time out of their day to actually hear this case for a year now, by the way, since it being filed in July of 2017, now all of a sudden it's a really big issue, and we need to actually make a big judgment on this. And no, Donald Trump, as the president of the United States, you are not allowed to block anybody from your social media. And they actually went on and said that any elected official, any public servant is not allowed to block anybody from their social media. Judge Naomi Rice Buchwald said in a ruling that Trump is violating the U.S. Constitution by preventing certain Americans from viewing his tweets. The social media platform said, she said that the, quote, is a designated public forum which Trump cannot exclude individual plaintiffs. Does he not have a private account on here? Does he not have a private account for him to make his own decisions on who he wants to see it or not see it? We're not banning them again from the actual social media platform, just from his personal account. The plaintiffs included a journalist who had tweeted at Trump that Russia won the presidential election for him. Of course, no trolls or anything. They're just giving sound advice to him on his social media platform. Also including a Texas police officer. The box on social media platform prevented the plaintiffs from viewing or responding to the president's tweets when logging into their own Twitter accounts. Oh, mon Dieu. That's a terrible thing. Holy cow. They couldn't see it. They logged into their own account, and they have the constitutional right to view anything they want to and leave comments and be little trolls like they want to all the time without any type of repercussion. This is really the dumbest thing that I've ever heard of in my entire life. This shows right here the prime example of judicial activism and the fact that the courts are really swamped with really ridiculous litigation, and they make really stupid decisions because it's on their desk, so why not actually judge on it, right? This is another example of, by the way, your account as well, where you're on social media, it's not really your social media account. It's not your private account to do with what as you will with it, but everybody can tell you what to do with your own account, right? This case is to consider whether a public official may violate the First Amendment, block a person from their Twitter account, or respond to political views that a person has expressed, and whether the analysis differs because the public official is the President of the United States. According to the judge, the answer to both questions is no. So you are violating that First Amendment if you block someone on your social media. So I open it up to you. 316-721-8255. Is it a violation of the First Amendment? Should the president be allowed to block, should any elected official be allowed to block someone on their Twitter account, or do they have to sit there and take the trolls? Because the trolls, that never happens, and no liberal progressives on the left side of the aisle are ever trolls that just want to sit there and wait for you to make a comment so that way they can openly try and trash you because they feel really empowered when they're sitting behind a computer screen or a phone screen. Let's go to the phones. 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen.
Helen, how are you?
I'm doing just great. And
Good.
how are you?
Hey, living the dream every day.
Oh, great. Number one, first I want to say that we're not able to see you. I'm not able to see you on TV.
You can't see me on TV today. Uh-oh. Well,
What's going on?
we'll pass that along. Make sure that everything's all right on their end.
Okay. And number two is this judge also defending conservatives on YouTube and Facebook and freedom of speech?
Well, that's a good question. Now, the cases haven't been presented to her, but, just like any other judge that's made decisions on, say, like the travel bans from President Trump, that they didn't necessarily even have to have litigation. They just kind of made the ruling. So you would think that she would also come out and say that, yeah, you know what, the president's not allowed to ban or block Twitter followers on a social media. So at the same time, then Facebook and Google and all these other sources that have conservative outlets, you're not allowed to try and block them or ban them or suspend their accounts or anything like that as well, because that would be an actual violation of the First Amendment if people actually wanted to post on their own personal account their opinions and block that, as opposed to just being able to see someone and trying to troll them and attack them on the offense.
It sounds like the liberals or the alt-left progressives have double standards.
Yeah, and that never happens with the progressives, right?
Right.
Yeah, that never happens. Helen, I appreciate that very much. That's a great point. I mean, come on, make a decision there. Come out and say, yeah, you know what, Facebook, you suspended Diamond and Silk's Facebook page. You've suspended different conservative organizations. You've limited their exposure. You've openly changed the algorithms to where conservative messages are not being expressed on Facebook nearly as much with as much exposure as some of the progressive messages on there. So, you know what? That is an actual violation of the First Amendment, because you open up the platform and you say it's fair to everybody, and then you openly try and limit the exposure of some of these individuals, which, that's on their own personal account. They're not trying to go after somebody. They're not trying to troll somebody. They're making comments on their own page, and you're not allowing people to see it, which, if you want to do that as a personal business, I guess, then that's your own prerogative. So they're going to start going elsewhere. But you're going to say that the president, by blocking somebody because they continuously attack him, continuously post on his page, and continually go after somebody, that's a violation of the First Amendment, and that they're actually allowed to do that as much as they want to without any type of repercussion. You're right, double standard there. That would never happen with the left-wing progressives, right? Never, ever. Crazy how all this works. Your thoughts, 316-721-8255. We'll take a break, take some more of your phone calls. We got a lot to get to today, but that one's a perfect way to start off your morning. The big, hard-hitting news of the day, the fact that the judges take time to rule on stupid cases like this one. 20 minutes past the hour. It is a pre-Friday celebration, the Thursday, right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network.
What's really fascinating to me is that the same left-wing progressives that love their safe space, especially on social media, by the way, they love their safe space to where they don't like anything that offends them, any kind of comments, any type of anything that offends them, that makes them feel really bad or makes them feel really guilty or makes them feel uncomfortable. by like saying yes sir, yes ma'am, because how dare you actually try and assume somebody's gender. As soon as they hear something like that, then of course they want their safe space. So I'm very curious as to why someone is throwing a fit about being blocked from President Trump's Twitter account if on social media they want their safe space anyways. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me, does it? I mean, if they want their safe space and they don't like what he has to say, they wouldn't want to see the posts anyways. And it's your choice, by the way, your choice to choose whether you want to follow somebody or not follow somebody. It is your choice based on your actions to decide whether you actually want to leave a comment on somebody's Twitter and respond to them, or whether you just want to view it and then move on and go about your thing, or whether you don't want to actually see it at all. And you would think with your own personal Twitter account, your own personal Facebook account, if you have a troll that continues to leave post after post after post, if you get a chance, go onto Twitter and look at Governor Sam Brownback's old Twitter account. Look at Governor Collier's Twitter account. Look at Chris Kobach's Twitter account. Look at some of these to where as soon as they post, it doesn't matter what it could be on. They'll post something, and then all of a sudden you'll see 80% of the posts being trolls by people just wanting to make ridiculous comments and attack them. Now, me being in radio and enjoying confrontation, I do that once in a while too, but I do it in a little bit different manner other than just saying you're dumb, other than just saying you're stupid, other than just saying I hate you. I at least try and argue with them with some kind of, reason or some kind of point that I make and try and start a dialogue and a debate just because I enjoy confrontation. So that's what I do. But I'm not necessarily trolling them. I just want to start a dialogue, and if I actually want to go back and forth a little bit with some discussion. But there's a difference between that and just saying, I hate you. And then when you don't get the right to do that and they actually block you, how dare you block me and say I can't hate you? Yeah. It's a little absurd. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the Facebook Live feeds. A lot of them making comments on there. Isn't it your right to block whoever needs be blocked? Yeah, well, yeah, you should. You should. That would be a common sense thing. This again shows, number one, the judicial activism in our court system and how absurd that discussion actually is, the fact that they actually took this case. Number two, I don't see how you're violating someone's First Amendment right by saying, yeah, you know what? They have the right to not actually listen to your ridiculous comments if they don't want to. For the media who despises Trump's Twitter account anyways because he's actually talking to people directly on Twitter as opposed to going through the filter of the media, you would think that they would be very happy with him blocking a lot of people on Twitter, so that way they don't get the message and then they have to go to the media to hear what Donald Trump's doing. You would think that the progressives would actually like him limiting the people that actually are exposed to his account. You would think that. But no. They're kind of all twisted up right now in pretzels, and they're not quite sure what direction to go. Do we like Donald Trump's tweets because he makes an ass of himself, and that way people can get blocked on there, and that way they have to come to us for the real news and the real media? Or do they don't like the media account and that they want everybody to? I mean, what do you want? I'm not quite sure what you actually want. Another Facebook comment: has football become a religion? Oh yes, the NFL going on and saying that you must stand up for the national anthem. We'll talk about that today, too. We'll get your thoughts on that. That's a big story that came down as of yesterday. All I can say is, guess what? Our protest worked, and now they're being mandated to try and stand up for the national anthem and for the flag. Not quite sure how that's a terrible thing. We'll talk about that later on in the show as well. Get your thoughts and calls. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Lots to get to today. This is The Voice of Reason on a Thursday. Good morning to you. Stay here.
Your home for entertaining radio.
This is your fault, too, man. I keep missing Rush Limbaugh's morning update every morning because I'm listening to your show.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, good morning to you. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason on a Thursday. The pre-Friday celebrations here. Welcome into it. Starting off your day better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink. By the way, I've been doing really, really well lately. This morning, had a bit of a struggle trying to get going. Grabbed a Good old do the Mountain Dew. Now I'm feeling all right. Feeling all right. Let's do this. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Lots to get to today, especially when it comes to the Twitter account. Get your thoughts on the tweeting. I never get Twitter anyways. It doesn't make any sense to me. But, this could relate to all different kinds of social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, to where if you get a troll on Facebook. Look, I want to say I've had 2 trolls on Facebook so far for the show. And there's a difference, too, by the way, between personal accounts and public accounts. For example, I have my personal account, Andy Hoosier, but then I also have the Voice of Reason show page on Facebook. And luckily, I've not had to block anyone from my personal page as of yet, but I blocked 2 people from the show page because I would post a podcast, I'd post the Facebook Live feed, I would post a link to an article, I'd make a comment, I'd give my opinion on something, and then someone would just go on there every single time. It would be, without a doubt, within 5 minutes of me posting on there, no matter what time of day it was, they were there, they were ready, and they started commenting on there with ridiculous, absurd comments. And I just blocked it because I'm tired of hearing about it. It was fun to debate with them once in a while, but after a while, it's just like, okay, done. I can't deal. Do you have the right to do that if you're an elected official? Now, the other part of this is that some of them have so many followers and so many people that comment that it just kind of gets stuck in the mud and just kind of, you don't even notice it really. But come on. Do you have the right to block some of that? That's a good question for you. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's go to the phones line at number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Scott.
Hey, good morning, Scott. What's happening?
Officer Rapp has been revealed by the Wichita Eagle as the officer who fatally shot the man on the porch. And I'm proud of them because they showed true journalism. No matter what the story is, they were, as journalists, obligated to tell it as it is, and all these fake news networks and radio stations failed to do that, and they revealed who they were by standing up and reporting as reporters should. So I have to give a lot of accolades to the Wichita Eagle newspaper.
Well, I told you it would happen, that it would come out eventually, because that's what journalists try to do, is they try and scoop the story, and if they're able to break that, they knew that would be a big story. So you doubted me, my friend. We knew this would happen eventually. Yeah,
well, it should have happened sooner than later, but it did happen.
It did happen, and we knew it. We knew it would. I knew it would, because that was something that big. They want to know exactly who it is, and they did. They broke the story. So kudos to them for that. The question is, though, does that really change anything?
Well, yes. As far as journalism is, it does change something, because it shows that you have some real journalists here, unlike some of these fake news networks and radio stations. They were too spineless to reveal it, even though they probably knew the information.
Well, I don't know. I think it was kind of, sealed up pretty tightly especially during the ongoing investigation part of it, which is why it did take so long, because really even parts of when it's an ongoing investigation, you're really not supposed to leak a lot of the internal news and information like that. So they really, They never
stopped the people from leaking on President Trump, though. He's got a lot of
but they're breaking the law when they're doing that. That's the point.
They were reporters, and they reported it, and here, they revealed that they are reporters. So, despite all the so-called opposition and obstacles, they were able to do their job as reporters and journalists.
Sure. Now, the concern that I have, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well, now that we know who the individual is, do you think that he's going to get any kind of repercussion with people marching onto his lawn or harassing him or that sort of thing? Or should he get that?
Well, one of the things is, since what I've seen in this article, he said he didn't see a gun. So, he needs to be fired, if nothing else. They won't charge him with anything, but at least he can be fired so they can assure the citizens here they got some type of safety on the streets, because they're supposed to talk all this safety stuff, which is really their catchword for controlling the community, making it more of a police state. But, they need to get rid of reckless cops. Unless you're going to say all cops are not the same, but at the same time, they're all covering for the bad ones.
Well, he will get his punishment in some way, shape, or form. If nothing else, it'll be at least as well, which, you have to admit that he's going through something as well, knowing that he shot an unarmed innocent man, and that haunts you and stays with you for a long time. So even if there's not necessarily the repercussions that you're looking for through the actual force, the mental and the emotional repercussions that he's going to feel for the rest of his life, knowing that he killed an innocent unarmed man, that's going to haunt him for a long time. And is that enough punishment?
If the police had it their way, they'd probably make them police chiefs around here because, like I say, that's what they like. They like people to get shot and ask questions later, and you know, I mean, a lot of recklessness here. I mean, as long as you have that type of police on the street, nobody truly can feel that the police, you know, I even have an option of objectivity when it comes to their policing.
Oh,
I
come
mean,
on.
Come on. They're first, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. What about the charging of the California man that called in the hoax swatting call? The fact that they charged him, the federal government has charged him, and two gamers as well, not along just with him, but with the two gamers as well. They've been officially indicted in the state of California by federal officials because of this. Do you agree with that?
And that's a joke, too, because, I mean, next thing they're going to be charging people for drinking Gatorade. Because, I mean, you're going to have somebody charged.
They called
for
in a fake report.
None of these guys murdered anybody.
Yes, they did.
There's
They
only
called
one murderer out there, and they refuse to charge him.
Wait a second. So someone that calls in to a 911, first off, made a false police report because they called into a 911 switchboard and said that there's an issue going on that there's not really an issue. So they already committed a federal crime because they called in a fake police report, which you're not supposed to do, and that is against the law. But they created a scenario knowingly that the individual was innocent, but did it as a gag to create a scenario that there was a hostage, there was already a death, and that someone was using deadly force with a gun, and he was on a shooting rampage, and that's okay, and we shouldn't punish him for that?
Well, Hollywood tells stories all the time. You going to put them in jail?
Of course Hollywood creates stories, but people don't actually follow it. These guys called a police station and said there was an issue.
Cops that believe everything. I mean, instead of looking and investigating first, you're supposed to look first before you shoot. This guy, he didn't even see a gun. He's admitting it.
They should investigate it first. So we should, if there is a shooting. Hold on, wait. Hold on, I'm trying to understand here. So, and we've gone round and round with this issue for a long time, I know, but I am fascinated by this argument that they should investigate it first. So if they get a call, if there's an active shooter, there's two hostages, children, by the way, and the mother is dead, laying on the floor because she was shot in the head, that they should wait another hour to try and find three other sources to verify it before they actually act on it? Or should they actually try to stop and eliminate the threat? Because let's say the active shooter was actually legit. Let's say that it was real, and they did wait, and the two kids ended up dying. Then we'd be blaming the cops because they didn't actually care about the children too, right?
Well, see, you just mentioned a time period. Now, it may not take a whole hour to investigate it.
But how do they...
Well, like I say, if you got a room, they said there's a room of 100 people being shot at, and you go in there's only two people in the room, you need to stop and look.
When you show up to a scene and they don't follow the rules and follow the directions of what they're being told, how do you know what the situation is going to be like?
Well, this is the thing about it, is that the people on the radio who are telling you, hey, we got a call said ABC, you don't necessarily can take their advice because they never seen the scene. You're the one on the scene looking at it and seeing what's going on. So if they tell you it's 100 people in a room getting shot and you walk in that room, you only see two people, then you need to stop and look.
Well, of course, but that's kind of an obvious situation there, isn't it?
Well, this was an obvious situation, too, because he didn't see a gun, so he needs to stop and look. And when his supervisor never gave any order to shoot.
And when he was told to put his hands on his head and he ended up moving his hands towards his waistline in the dark where you can't see what he's grabbing with, and you're assuming he has a weapon because that's what you were being told on the scene, then you're not supposed to react.
But now, doesn't the supervisor have that decision to make? I mean, he has a supervisor to say, hey, hold your fire or wait till I tell you to shoot before you do it. That's just like in the military. You just don't everybody just starts shooting at everything. You have somebody, a sergeant or a lieutenant, who is telling you, hey, hold your fire,
All right, so let's
get
go down.
ready
Let's
to
go down.
you
Let's
get
go down
take orders.
Let's go down the
It's all
theoretical
taken orders.
situations for another minute here, shall we? So let's say that they're supposed to wait for their supervisor to say fire. Can the supervisor tell them to fire quicker than he can if he did have a gun? Go to his waistline, pull out a gun, and start firing at the officers. Can he do that? And they respond by the orders of the officer in charge at that time quicker than he can pull out a gun and start firing at them.
Well, you know, one thing for sure, we know for a fact that the police have body armor, okay? Now, the guy who they were shooting at, they knew for a fact didn't have body armor. So
But how do they know
got
that?
A little bit more protection.
How did
than
they
the
know
guy
that?
they were shooting at.
How did they know he
Well,
didn't have body
they
armor?
obviously saw him. They obviously saw him. They saw he didn't have any body armor on. If they could see, if the guy said he'd say he didn't see a gun, he could also see he didn't have any body armor on either.
Oh, unless he had a shirt on, in which case it could have been underneath the shirt. If it was shirtless, then maybe, I don't know. Scott, I appreciate it. It's an interesting discussion. I love going round and round with you. I do appreciate the call very much, but I still don't understand again how we're supposed to stop and verify and allow people to be in danger for longer stints of time if there is a threat, which is what the situation was at the time, and the fact that we're still. Talk about trolls in this situation. We're still going after the wrong people. Yes, we found out who the shooter was, and now there's going to be, I'm sure, harassment to this individual personally in their home. They're going to go after him, even after the emotional distress that he's going through himself. And we're still not supporting the fact that right now, we have the swatters, people that called in the scene and created the situation in the first place, in custody by federal officials, and we're not proud about that. We're not happy about that. To me, that's some of the greatest news. Let's punish these people so that way we don't get calls like this in the future. And we need to remember that there's been much more swatting calls since then as well, and they've led to non-people dying in those situations because they were treated appropriately. This one was an unfortunate event, but it was the stand your ground law. They did defend the officer because he did see the movement that looked like a firearm coming up when it was in the dark, and they were assuming he had a firearm, and they responded appropriately. And if you wait any longer, yeah, cops have body armor, but they don't always hit the body armor, do they? And at the end of the day, they have the right to defend themselves along with the people around them. So, interesting conversation. Appreciate it very much, Scott. Let's sneak in another phone call here, shall we? 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning, it's Deacon.
Deacon, what's happening, sir?
Hey, it's a beautiful day, and I'm loving life.
Hey, every day. I love it.
Hey, the blocking people on your account,
Yes.
it's your account. You know, it's like your mailbox. If somebody keeps sending you harassing mail, you can contact the post office and they will handle it. They will block
Sure.
that stuff coming from your house.
Sure.
You know, but
But
and
as an
that
elected
Jack you were just talking to, he ain't nothing but a cop hater. And that right, man, some of my best friends are police, and the fact that they released that officer's name in the newspaper for doing his job, that is pathetic and sickening. Now he's going to get people threatening him, threatening his family, coming to his house.
Mm-hmm.
That is disgusting. And people who stand up for the criminals instead of standing up for the cops, I hope to God when they need to dial 911, they get a busy signal.
Well, I would agree with you in the sense that I don't think that the name should have been released by the officer. I know a lot of people want it, and that's the journalistic duty. Look, I mean, the news, the media, they want to break the story, so they found out and they released it, and guess what? They're going to get publicity for it because everybody's talking about who the actual name is. But you're right. I mean, now the person not only is having to fight the psychological issue of killing an unarmed, innocent individual, but now they're going to get harassed by the general public until they either step down, the police station actually fires them, or they're going to be going home and they're going to be pickets out in the front yard protesting him and shaming him for the rest of him and his entire family for probably for the next 20 years. And it's something that they're going to have to go through. And I feel bad for them in that sense. You're right. Instead of actually focusing on the real criminal here, that is the individuals that thought it was a funny joke to make a phone call and create this deadly situation in the first place.
That's right. And, we can all sit back and armchair quarterback, Monday morning quarterback it all day long. Those officers had a split second to decide whether or not he was reaching in his waistband for a gun, which, hey, I know a lot of guys who carry concealed, and where's it at? Right there on their hip.
Sure.
And it's dark. They couldn't see what he was doing. They were responding to a call of somebody who had murdered somebody, was keeping children hostage, They weren't responding to, oh, hey, my next door neighbor is having a loud party. No.
There's a deadly situation. Kids are hostage. The mother's already dead. And again, if the situation would have been real and they did wait and the kids ended up getting hurt, then of course we would hate the cops for not caring about children, right?
That's right. They have, a split second in time to make a decision that's going to affect them the rest of their life. And when we Monday morning quarterback it and start throwing their name out in the public arena for ridicule and disdain, how many people want to be cops when they know that if they have to defend their life, they're going to be harassed?
Sure.
How many people want to be cops after that? I love the cops. Those guys, they step up and they run towards the bullet when everybody else is running away.
Well, and very few people actually want to do that. You're spot on, Deacon. I appreciate it very much. And when it comes to, by the way, the social media issue, you're spot on as well. I mean, do we say that public officials, elected officials, are not allowed to block mail coming into their mailbox? Are they not allowed to block people from stepping onto their private yard, their front yard, as they protest and picket them day in and day out because they're trolls and they got nothing better to do, and that's they're professional protesters? Do they have the right to do that? Yeah, they're allowed to block that stuff, but apparently they're not allowed to block their social media account for being trolled by people who just want to openly go out of their way just to trash them and call them names and make fun of them because, well, they feel that's their First Amendment right. You can still do that, by the way, on the social media. You can do it on your own personal page and try and tag them, but there you go. Apparently that's okay, which is very fascinating to me. I just don't get that whole idea, not to mention just the waste of time of a federal judge actually making these decisions. Got a lot more calls on the line. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. Got to take a break here as we're getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Mid-America Network.
I do got to give you credit, Scott. You do get the conversation started and get people riled up, so I appreciate that. We love it. Let's try and squeeze in some more calls here before the top of the hour. 316-721-8255. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm Steve. Hey, I just got something for you guys to think about,
Sure.
When that guy had the swatting call, you got the police showing up. You probably got a couple officers out front who are the spokesman for the police, giving him directions. At the same time, you probably had that was a bungalow-style house, right? You probably had a couple guys off to the side of that with their weapons drawn, pointed at the guy. So if he did pull out a firearm, they would have been able to see it first and pop off around. But we had a guy across the street behind a car. It looked like a little bit of a ways. Probably had a scope. He could see pretty good. But don't you think the guys closer at the porch or the people up front there would have had better knowledge as to what's going on? I support the police, and I'm not bagging on them. They have a rough job, right?
Sure.
And going to a domestic call, I have police officer friends who always say those are the worst because you never know what to expect. You can go to save somebody who's being beat. You go to arrest a husband or whatever, and then the woman turns on him and starts beating up on the cop so they could get assaulted from behind. You always have to watch, both sides. So I do support the police. I know they have a rough job, but I think the guy that fired the firearm kind of jumped the gun there,
Sure.
And I appreciate what they did. They got there fast. They took care of the problem. But I don't know. And the guy who made the swatting call, he should be prosecuted as well. He had, something to do with that.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, Steve, hang on the line. We got to take a top of the hour break here, and we got some more calls on the line. Everybody hang tight. It's a really interesting comment, and I'm glad you brought it up, and let's talk about that when we come back. Got to wrap up hour number 1, hour number 2 right around the corner. Everybody stay right here. Lots to discuss today. It's going to be a fun one. This is The Voice of Reason.
It's time for Reason.
If you have a $200, $300, $400 cell phone bill every month for you and the family, then you have a problem because we're paying you what the market actually sets for you and for your job skills. We're paying market value for you, and you're not going to manipulate the market on what the value of your job is just because you can't figure out your own personal budget. That's on you. That's not on me. We need to remember that we need to take on personal responsibility.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get all on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard to What's Happening. Great to have you along today on a Thursday. The pre-Friday celebration is here. I think we should celebrate that one. What do you say? The light is at the end of the tunnel. Holiday weekend right around the corner. I know you are excited about that. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. We do have the Facebook Live feed up and rolling this morning. A lot of people checking that out and commenting on it this morning. We love it. Continue on. Like it, share it, leave a comment, ask a question. Just say good morning, call me a jerk, whatever you want to do, which a lot of people do anyway, so it's really okay. It won't offend me. I will not block you. I will not ban you from my account just because you call me a jerk, like some courts apparently say that some are not allowed to do when it comes to your social media account as an elected official. I do want to get back into that for a minute later on in the show, as well as the federal judge comes out and blocks Trump from blocking Trump Twitter followers. Not allowed to block them on your tweet account. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But there was an interesting story, interesting comment that was made by listener Steve. He dropped off the line there. We'll hopefully get him back on if he wants to here in a minute. But as you know, when it comes to the swatting issue that happened just a few months ago here in the Wichita area, that number one, the individual's name, the officer's name, has been released on who actually did the shooting. And then also at the same time, the story was, as of yesterday, hat tip to Cake TV, federal prosecutors have indicted 2 online gamers and the California man accused of making the hoax call that led to a police officers fatally shooting an unarmed man in his Wichita home. The indictments included, by the way, yesterday were unsealed yesterday to 25-year-old Tyler Barris, 18-year-old Casey Viner of Ohio, and Shane Gaskell of Wichita. Barris had already been charged on the state level with involuntary manslaughter. Now, the other 2, Viner and Gaskell, they face conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and wire fraud charges. First court appearances for all 3 of them are set for June 13th. So that's the big story that came out yesterday, with not only the name of the shooter, the officer that did the shooting, but then the 3 individuals that were indicted, one in California, one in Ohio here, and then one in Wichita, as they are facing those charges. And the question is, first off, should have the name of the officer been released? Because, well, now what does that do? I mean, other than us knowing and us feeling, okay, now we know who it is, what does that do? Does that allow us to advocate for this individual to be released from the police force in the area? Does that allow us or allow some individuals to go and harass this individual on their private home, on the job, which is not going to solve anything? It's not going to fix anything. So what's the point? And then do you feel like we should have indicted these individuals? According to some of the callers that we had last hour, no, that we shouldn't have indicted these individuals because they're just making a call. That doesn't do anything other than, set the entire stage for a hostile situation that led to someone's death. And we need to punish that for what that is. So I'm glad we're indicting this individual on manslaughter. I'm glad that they're being punished, and we need to set the stage and actually set the example of what's going to happen if anybody else tries to make these swatting calls yet again. Your thoughts on all of this? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Caller Steve asked the question right at the top of the hour about, well, the house was surrounded, and there were individuals that were closer, probably off to the sides. You could see a lot better. And, what about that? And you're right. There are a lot of officers that were off to the side that probably saw a lot better, and they said even and came out and made the statement that they did not see a firearm. So that's very true. At the same time, I have a very hard time saying that the individual that did do the shooting wasn't justified in the sense that from what he saw, whether the distance was longer, whether the distance was shorter, how dark it was, what the situation actually was, that when they see something like that, they're trained to react. And he reacted, and obviously it was the wrong reaction. But they didn't know that at the time, and I would have stood by them at that time. Again, 2020 hindsight is always perfect, and you can see everything looking backwards as perfect on what we should have done or could have done or would have done, but that didn't happen. And I'm going to defend that individual for making that decision at that time with the information that they knew at that time on what they were trying to do to defend not only the potential hostages that were in the home, but then the family, but then the law enforcement that was around them as well. And I cannot go on the assault and on the attack for that. But you're right. There were officers that were closer that probably had a better view. and that came out and said, yeah, you know what, I didn't see a firearm. It looked like he was reaching towards his waistline to either pull up his pants, which, listen, the moral of that story, pull up your damn pants. There was the individuals that said that they thought he was reaching towards the screen door, which was about the same height. But regardless, when you were told to put your hands up in the air and not move a muscle, and you move a muscle and you go towards the waistline, which is normally predominantly where individuals carry firearms, and when you're under the assumption that he does have a firearm and that someone's already dead with 2 children hostage, that's the information you have and that's how you're going to respond, then I'm not going to judge on that sense. And that's my take on it. So I appreciate it very much, Steve. Let's go back to the phones. The phones are lighting up. Everybody wants to get your thoughts on this. By the way, I do want to comment later on in the show as well when it comes to the NFL and their statement unanimously coming out with all the NFL owners saying that they're going to encourage all NFL players and teams to stand during the national anthem. That, of course, getting some riled up individuals as well. And in my sense, I say, hey, you know what? Our protest actually worked.
We did it! We did it! We did it! Yay!
Something we should be very proud of. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But let's get your thoughts on this issue. 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, this is Kirk.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Hey, it seems like, it was a press release that released his name, and it wasn't a press release. He went to court voluntarily. You could blame it on the county.
Sure.
You could say he went there voluntarily. They're reporting the news. I'm for the courts being open to the public.
Sure.
And that's why we have county attorneys and judges and defense lawyers, is hopefully to keep everybody in that courtroom honest.
Sure.
And and it's unfortunate his name got out there, but it wasn't like the police department or the city or somebody put out a press release and said, hey, here's this guy.
Sure. And it wasn't some like the local media that kind of did some crazy internal investigation and then broke the story when it was supposed to be sealed sort of thing either.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't, it's unfortunate it's out there, but, he made the choice to take the stand. The county attorney, asked him to take the stand probably. And
he accepted that. Which doesn't that too show the character of the individual of what he's going through in that situation, knowing that he had shot and killed an unarmed, innocent individual, and he's suffering that himself, and he's putting himself out there available for criticism and attacking of him and his career and his family and everything of that sort by putting himself out there like that.
Right. So I think, like I said, it was a voluntary thing probably on his side.
Sure.
I don't know. But I'm not, privy to all the behind the scenes stuff. But, he went public himself, in a public setting. So. Well,
that is true. That is true. And I give him kudos for doing that if that's what he chooses to do.
And fortunately we have open courts and news outlets that will report what goes on.
Sure.
Right or wrong, so.
Well, that's very true, Kurt. I appreciate it very much. That's a great point. And if he chooses to do that, then that's his own prerogative. I would have encouraged him not to do so because of the backlash that he is going to receive from the general public, who is out to try and demonize him as opposed to demonizing the swatting callers that ended up doing that, or the caller that did that in the first place and set the entire example and set the entire stage for this. So, interesting point. I appreciate that very much. Let's go back to the phones at line number 3. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Hey, this is Steve again.
Hey, good morning, Steve. What's happening?
Hey, I was the one who said that the police were probably to the side of the porch and would have a lot better view of what's going on, and the guy across the street or across the way behind they look like an old red, truck.
Absolutely.
Shot.
Absolutely. Did you hear my response to that? You're right. The people off to the side probably would have been able to see him better. And the individual that took the shot may not have been in the best position, but seeing that action, is that a justification to fault him for the shot that he made?
Well, think about this. If I have a gun pointed at a person and they go to their waistband and go to pull a firearm, I'm going to your hand's going to be bent a certain way. You're going to be reaching. I'm going to be able to see it and get a round off a lot quicker than he's going to be able to pull a weapon up. This isn't the Wild West. It takes a minute for a firearm to come out of a pants, a holster or your pants or whatever, and shoot at a target than if I've got a gun pointed at something and I'm going to hit it before that, comes pointed at me.
That is true. That is true. But Is that part of the 2020 hindsight of, well, we should have waited a little bit for another second or two to see what he's actually doing, as opposed to, where he's got a gun, we've been told he's got a gun, he's already killed somebody, and he's reaching towards that, which potentially could be the gun. We're going to eliminate that before taking that risk. I mean, to me, that's kind of, I don't know if I was in that situation, and I try and put myself in the shoes of the situation at that time, is that a risk I'm willing to take and say he's reaching towards something? We've been told he has a gun, so I'm assuming that's a gun.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I think the guy ought to be, charged, and maybe he should get a desk job. I'm not trying to take away somebody's livelihood, but maybe we don't necessarily need you running around with a firearm on the street.
Sure. And he may openly advocate for that, because maybe just by knowing that he shot an unarmed innocent man, that he'd choose to. I've heard a lot of officers that once they do something like that, and they've shot a child that broke their heart, they've shot someone innocently, or they were unarmed, and they realize that in the after fact, and they have to deal with that they don't want to be on the streets because they don't want to be put in that situation again.
That's true. I feel sorry for the officer who fired the shot. He's got to live with that decision that he made.
Sure.
And I feel sorry for the family too. As far as the guys going to court for involuntary manslaughter, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily the right charge for it, but something should be done. I mean, they weren't the ones that fired the round. They did have a lot to do with it. They had everything to do with it. So yeah, they're guilty. But I don't know what the charge should be on that. That's for the courts to decide, and hopefully they make the right decisions and get the right punishments.
I'm right there with you. Steve, I appreciate that very much. Now, I do support wholeheartedly the legislation that's coming out of both the state of Kansas and at the federal level that was presented, by the way, by Congressman Ron Estes here for the 4th Congressional District, and them on that swatting bill saying that if you make a swatting call, then whatever punishments come out of it, other than just being tagged onto the fact that you made a false police report, which is illegal in itself, but anything that happens to the individual, that you're liable to that. So in this case, you would be considered for manslaughter, and you'd be punished for manslaughter because it was murder. So you would be just as liable to whatever punishment happens and whatever detrimental issue happens in that situation. You'd be responsible for that. And I wholeheartedly support that. Because number one, you're not supposed to be making false police reports. And number two, if you create a scenario that's not really there and it leads to something disastrous, that's on you. That's on you. That's the same kind of mentality where the progressives try and blame George W. Bush for starting this evil war in the Middle East, and then all the blood that happens in the Middle East and all the children, all the women that, by the way, many of them have bombs strapped to them and go and try and blow up American soldiers. That's saying that the blood's on your hand, President Bush. He didn't physically go out and do that, but he gave the order. In that situation, the swatting individual gave the order. He said, look, there is a hostage situation. You need to deal with this. Someone's already dead. There's 2 people hostage. They're innocent children, and this guy's extremely dangerous with a crazy gun. You need to do something about it. He gave the order to say, go and resolve this because something's happening. That's the same mentality as what many say that, well, President Bush, all the blood's on your hands for actually doing that, which that isn't true because, you can't help if someone actually having a bomb strapped to their arm. But we kind of have a double standard in that situation, don't we? Blame President Bush for that, but yet we're not going to blame the swatters who actually create the scenario when there wasn't a scenario in the first place. See, I think we should blame them for it. Put is just as much of a punishment onto them as anybody who would have gone out and done a cold-blooded killing in the first place. 316-721-8255. Let's go back to the phones here. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen again.
Helen, what's going on?
Well, regarding this issue, I listened to the wisdom of the Lord God. Deuteronomy 19:15. One witness shall not rise up against a man or any person for any iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth or might have sinned, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. So if the police only listen to the witness of one person who should be charged, I mean, he should go to jail for what he did. And actually, according to God's law, he should suffer the death penalty because he caused this man to be put to death.
He caused the death. I mean, he's the one that created that situation to cause that death. I mean, I don't know if I would go towards the death penalty, because right now we don't even go to the death penalty for someone who does 5 killings necessarily anymore. It's very difficult to get that. But I agree with you and with God's law of the fact that we should punish them for the issues that they've created. That's on them. That's on them. Why do we take responsibility away from the individuals that did this? Again, if you did miss it, 3 individuals arrested, the swatting call from California, and then 2 gamers, 1 out of Ohio and then 1 here out of Wichita with that situation. So they are federally indicted. That case is going to be starting in June 13th right now for the first appearance for all 3 men, and we'll see where it goes. This is going to really set the stage for future issues going on from here out, and we got to make sure that's done right. We really got to make sure it's done right, because if it's not, then any other future swatting calls that may happen, then we could see something really bad come out of those. Got to take a break real quick. Got some more calls on the line. Don't go anywhere. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. 27 minutes past the hour. Let's take some more phone calls on this. What do you say? 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Jim, good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, I wish Mr. Scott would go take a class on force on force. I also think he's watched too many movies where a SWAT sniper or an Army sniper or somebody gets orders to shoot somebody, and that's an entirely different thing. But when the police officers come out to your house and say, knock, knock, let us in the house, because they've been told, as you say, there was a murder already in the house, there's kids being held hostage and in danger, that officer cannot wait for any permission from anybody else or any authority. He has the authority to shoot when his radio call sends him to that address, not.
Well, and he has a duty to protect himself and the other individuals around him. So if they sense a threat, then it's their duty to eliminate that threat.
That's exactly right. And you watch these TV shows, and there's a hostage in a house, and the SWAT team shows up, and they set up sniper posts and everything, and then some lieutenant says, "Shoot him in the head." That's not how it works. That's TV.
Look, they try to do what they can the best way they can. I mean, it reminds me, and Jim, I appreciate that. It reminds me of the shooting, again, that we had in our high school my senior year when I was there, and it was in the room above. And the way our school was actually set up was actually kind of in the upstairs in this particular area of the school was kind of like a horseshoe around the library in the center, and then there's 2 stories of the rooms, and one entire wall was glass and window, and you could see down into the library. And the shooting happened in a room that was upstairs, and it had one of those sides of the room that was completely glass and window, and there were snipers that came in trying to neutralize that individual and went in across catty corner from that room into another room to try and look through the window to see if they could see this individual, but it was dark and they could not, and they couldn't do anything about it. But they tried. You try and neutralize the situation the best that you can. This individual thought that they could, and they tried. And obviously it was the wrong decision in hindsight. They did the best they could. But now the name's out. We'll see what happens thereafter. Got some more calls on the line. Don't go anywhere. We got lots more to touch on. We'll shift gears a little bit as well to Donald Trump's Twitter account. Should elected officials ban people on their Twitter accounts? And the NFL wanting to make players stand for the national anthem. Lots to discuss today. Stay here.
Patriotism is alive and well. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
What up? Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Good morning to you. Great to have you along today on a Thursday. The pre-Friday celebration rolls right along. 36 minutes past the hour. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. By the way, I want to remind you, you have limited time to still do this if you want to submit your recipe right now to the KQAM KGSO First Annual Cookbook. We are having that. Your favorite drinks, desserts, breakfasts, barbecue. It doesn't matter. It is barbecue season, grilling season. What kind of recipes do you have that people just love, they get excited about? If you look, it's very simple. Email recipe@kqamradio.com. And when you do, email us with your favorite recipe or a recipe, a family recipe, a generic recipe, whatever you want, a recipe, and you get your name into a drawing to get a free, brand new pellet grill hat tip to Wichita Tractor. It's pretty awesome. It's kind of a cool deal. Submit your recipe now, recipe@kqamradio.com, or you can go and get more information and details on our website, kqamradio.com. Go down there and you'll see the promotions on there with that promotion and where you can email. There's also the link there to the email as well. Just go to kqamradio.com and find that information. By the way, before we move on here, do you remember the whole Laurel Yanni audio clip? Where some people hear Laurel, some people hear Yanni. It's kind of the odd clip to where you really got to listen to, and you can hear back and forth. It was ridiculous. I'm not sure where it came from. But now apparently people are finding more and more and more different audio clips like this that actually you can hear two different things. And they're trying to find these and getting people all riled up on what do you actually hear on these? Well, there's a new one that came out, and it's politically oriented. And I'm going to ask you this one, your thoughts. Apparently you can hear both. I can hear both. This is one of the first ones that I can actually hear both on here, and it totally makes sense. Can you hear, and it's weird too because they're totally like, I guess kind of the same, but they're different at the same time as well. Can you hear Obama or can you hear Hillary? Here it is, the audio clip where you can hear both Obama or Hillary in the same audio clip.
Criminal. Criminal.
Do you hear it?
Criminal. Criminal.
Oh.
Criminal.
Oh, okay, there it is. See? 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. Let's go to the phones. What do you say? Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, this is Scott again. I had to, I was waiting to reveal this stuff, but I can hear so many of these people aren't really thinking.
I tell you what, you got everybody fired up. I love that.
But hold on. Now, here's the thing about it. Now, when a person takes a hostage, they already know, hey, I got hostages in here. So when the police show up, they don't come to the door just, hey, here I am. They either have a hostage in front of them or either they send out a hostage to tell them what their demands are. So when the police shoot the first person that's coming out there, the hostage taker already knows that. So he gets the hostage killed automatically by just sending out the first guy. So when you see the first guy and you shoot him, then you may have already shot one of the hostages yourself, not knowing who the guy is, just shooting. So that's why I say you should look and find out what's going on instead of just bum rushing the place. Find out who it is you're shooting before you shoot them, because it might be one of the dang hostages.
Well, in this situation, the two hostages were two little children, and it was an adult that came out, so it wouldn't have been one of the hostages.
You can't tell how many hostages in a house that you haven't been in. I mean, they can tell you, hey, there's 3 hostages, 4. There might be 10 hostages in there. You don't know.
Oh, here's my understanding of what happened was that when the call came in, first off, said that there was a family with the adult that killed the mom and had the 2 sons hostage and 2 kids. So you're right. I mean, you want to verify as well. From my understanding, when he came out, he verified who he was and then tried to either go back inside or tried to move when he was told to stand put. So from my understanding, and maybe I could be wrong on this one, but from my understanding, from what I thought, that they had verified who he was when he came out the door.
Well, if they were talking to him that much, they should have seen he had a gun or not. Come on now.
Well, again, though, Scott, if it's under your jacket or something and he has his hands up in the air and he's told not to move and he ends up reaching his hand towards his jacket or towards his waistline where predominantly people carry the firearm, what's he going to pull out? Is he pulling out a pen? Is he pulling out a flashlight, a wallet, or is he pulling out a gun?
Well, now, they have video that should reveal all that stuff. Why haven't they put that out in the public?
Well, because it's still under investigation.
Yeah, okay.
It's still
all of that mush. But you know what? I think the NFL, on the NFL part,
yes,
I think they're doing the right thing because, see, the Star Spangled Banner doesn't mean anything about freedom anyway, because if it did, it wouldn't matter if a person stood up or sat down if they were about freedom. See, the Star Spangled Banner is about slavery. They're promoting slavery in there.
Where does it say slavery?
Who reads the lyrics knows that.
Where does it say slavery?
It says no refuge for the harlot or the slave from terror or flight or gloom of the grave, and that's in the Star Spangled Banner.
So is he talking like he is in the rest of the entire song metaphorically about slaves to tyranny, or is he talking about people actually in shackles?
Well, okay, well, what does that mean to you? No refuge for somebody. I mean, apparently somebody's needing a refuge. Somebody is under duress.
What was the Revolution War fought for? Or fought against? Why were they fighting Great Britain?
Why were they fighting them? Well, because they were overtaxed. Because the Bank
of tyranny,
London
because they were looking.
The Bank of London wanted the money for the colonies, and the colonies didn't want to pay the tax, so they ended up overtaxing them. And
they were fighting. Looking towards refuge against an over-oppressive government that was taxing them.
So how can you fight for freedom when you're enslaving people? I mean, that's just a major contradiction right there.
Which is why the founders put in the Declaration that all men are created equal under God, and that they had the anticipation and the fight to start ending slavery. But that was kind of part of the society. I'm not saying it was right, but that was part of the society at that time as they were working towards ending that. But one fight at a time, my friend. But the Star-Spangled Banner was about freedom, was about liberty, and was about finding refuge away from tyranny, which is what that was. It has nothing to do with the actual slaves.
How was a slave getting refuge if they were saying no refuge? They said no refuge.
It was the vision and the icon of the nation, which is what they had envisioned.
I guess people can see a word and read into it what they want to.
Well, yeah, because that's the whole theme for the rest of the entire Star-Spangled Banner. Not to mention that when we sing the Star-Spangled Banner at an NFL game, we don't even sing that second verse where that's at. We don't even sing it. The vision of the United States is freedom and sovereignty for all. Did we have slaves at that time? Yes. Was that right? No. It was the norm of society at that time as they were working towards doing it. Look, they understand, and this goes into the debate today, and I'm glad you brought it up to kind of do the segue, was they understood that America has a lot of flaws and we're working towards ending them. You can't do everything immediately. We just established a nation. We're trying to figure out how to do it. And originally in the nation, we had sovereign states that still did whatever they needed to because they were sovereign states. Is that wrong? Yeah. Did we have slavery? Yeah. Was it bad? Yes, absolutely. I'm not trying to justify or trying to defend slavery in any way, shape, or form. That was the way it was. But that's why the Founding Fathers put into their message that they want all men created equal under God. All men created, they understood that. They understood it. They knew it. But just like some purists today, where you either get everything or you don't want anything, you either want it all right now or you don't want any of it, you can't do that. And in the game of politics and in the realism world of writing legislation and doing things, you can't do that. But the Star-Spangled Banner had nothing in any way, shape, or form to do with slavery. In the sense of slaves actually working farms or plantations or whatever. The slavery and the refuge that they were looking at was consistent with the rest of the national anthem, talking about refuge from tyranny, refuge from high taxes, refuge from big, bloated, large government. And that's what they were fighting at that time, which is why he wrote it during the Revolutionary War, when we were trying to fight for our independence. If you haven't heard, the NFL owners unanimously approved the new national anthem policy that requires players to stand if they are on the field during performances, but give them the option to remain in the locker room if they prefer. And it was announced as of yesterday. The policy subjects teams to a fine if a player or any other team personnel does not show respect for the anthem, and that includes any attempt to sit or kneel. Those teams will also have the option to fine any team personnel, including players, for the infraction. So what it really comes down to is that if you stand or kneel on the field, then the NFL franchise itself will fine the team. The team then has the choice to either pay the fine or to fine the individual player that actually did it. It was approved unanimously by all the NFL owners, so therefore it's not subject to the collective bargaining by the NFL Players Association, the union of the players. Why we need a union for players to actually play a game, I don't really understand. But it's that way. It's all 32 owners that actually approve this. All NFL owners that actually approve this. So the NFL will charge the team for anybody that's actually kneeling, fine them, and then the team has the prerogative to either to just pay the fine or actually fine the player. Some teams came out and said that we'll pay the fine and we'll be happy to pay the fine to allow them to do this. Other teams said that they will go after the player to actually do that, or they'll just say, you know what, we're just going to stay in the locker room for the entire time, so that way we don't show that respect. The question is to you is, do you think that we won this debate? Of course the ratings went down. It was the lowest rated NFL season in last year than they've ever had, and they panicked and they freaked. So did it work? Is it a day late and a dollar short and you're still not going to watch the NFL and you don't really care? Or do you see this as we won, we did the protest, the ratings went down, and now they're finally coming back and saying, we're sorry, please come and watch our games again and watch all our advertisers again and come out and pay attention to the NFL. And we're going to do this so that way they have that choice, but that way you're not going to see it and it's not going to be a spectacle this year. Is it a day late and a dollar short? Is it worth it? Is it something that you're proud of, happy about, or does it not really matter at all? I'd love to hear your thoughts. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. What's your name?
Nate.
Nate, good morning, sir. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
I listening this morning to several conversations, and I am just amazed at the lack of understanding and ignorance of so many people. For one, I'd like to address two things mainly. For one, the average gunfight lasts 3 seconds. So whenever that one caller said, it takes a minute to get a gun out, and no.
We should wait and see what he's pulling out first, and once we start seeing the flashes, then we should start reacting, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So gunfights are very rapid, and it's a very dynamic situation. So you can't second guess what happened in a very quick instant.
It takes 2 to 3 minutes for a mass shooting in a school.
Yeah, it's all very, very rapid.
Right.
And that's why they're in and gone. That's the one in Florida. He was gone before the police even did anything. So.
Exactly.
So the other one is the national anthem, and this one kind of ticks me off because we understood our history. If you understand when it's talking about the hiring and the slave, it's saying that nobody is going to be safe from the tyranny. Nobody's going to be safe from the war that's here and from the oppression that comes from it. And it doesn't matter your station in life. Mm-hmm. We're all going to be equally affected if England comes in and reconquers us and takes us over again. We'll all be affected by the tyranny.
Exactly. Which, by the way, is consistent with the rest of the national anthem as he wrote that.
Exactly. And they're taking this one little thing and they're running with it because they're trying to fit it into their agenda. But if you understand what they said, and, there's so much of that's going on in America today that they throw out the history. We don't teach the history. We don't teach the truth.
It's a great point.
We teach the political agenda.
Exactly. Well, you are spot on. This is exactly what we get when we have a public education system that doesn't teach history, that doesn't teach the Constitution, that doesn't teach the Declaration of Independence. All they teach is that the founding fathers and the creators of the Constitution and the first government that we had were all a bunch of land-owning white individuals that were slave owners and that didn't care about what they were actually doing, and it was all about political power. And when you have that mindset, then you go back and begin to read just a little bit of that documentation, like the national anthem and the Star-Spangled Banner. Then you say, oh, look, they're talking about slaves. Oh, man, they really love their slaves as they're talking about a free nation.
Well, the only slaves were not black, and the only slave owners were not white.
Mm-hmm.
There were black. In fact, some of the biggest slave owners were black,
mm-hmm.
and some of the most popular slaves were white.
Sure.
That was, and people would work off, the slavery, the hireling, and those who came off to pay for their trip over.
Sure.
So they would work for 7-8 years or whatever it took to pay for their family's trip, and they were basically a slave until they got that done.
And even when they were, by the way, and especially we've talked about this before, the Irish slaves, which are the first ones that came over here, because they weren't technically slaves and they could leave. But even once they did pay off that debt, they allowed them to leave while they kept the children. And do you really think the family left the children in slavery while they went off and did their own thing?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
The other thing that nobody mentions is the fact that slave ships showed up at Plymouth.
Sure.
They set the slaves free and they put the slave captors in jail.
Well, that is a part of history that a lot of individuals just don't get or don't understand. Nate, great, excellent points. I appreciate that. That's call of the day right there. That's fantastic. No, you're absolutely right. We need to remember the purpose of this, and if we did a little digging in history and understanding of what's actually going on, then this would not be an issue. They've turned it into an issue. I wholeheartedly support the NFL finally doing something and making this decision, finally coming out and actually wanting to take a stand. The question is it a day late and a dollar short? That's what I want to hear from you on. Let's go back to the phones. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hello?
Hello.
This is Helen again.
Helen, what's going on?
Well, I'm sure this is going to offend Scott, but I'm a slave to the Lord Jesus Christ and the Lord God. So that probably will really offend him.
Well, that could be. Well, that's true. I mean, we all are servitude there. I appreciate it, Helen. Let's try and keep it to one or two calls a day there. We don't want to go over, but I appreciate that. It's a great point. It's a great point. Let's try and sneak in one more call here before we take a break, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, happy Thursday.
Myron, what's happening, sir?
Well, I wasn't expecting to call in, but some of the callers you've been getting about the police shooting, they have no concept. When you are, you have an active shooter, so everybody is watching the shooter. You're a distance away, you've got a rifle, you don't wait. Well, the guys up closer might might see more of what he's doing. You see an action, you take the shot. You don't wait to see if somebody might have a better situation.
What if they don't have, even if they're closer, what if they don't have a better view based on the angle that he's positioned or where he's standing?
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean, in that situation, the first person that has a shot and sees a threat takes the shot.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
The second thing is you don't wait for 2 or 3 witnesses to call in. There was a shooting in front of my house. I heard it. Other neighbors heard it. Didn't think anything about it. One neighbor recognized it was gunfire and called the police.
Mm-hmm.
If it had been up to me, the police would have never come out. So this idea that you got to have 2 or 3 people called in before you release a 911 call, you get one, you got active shooter, you get there.
There you go.
As far as the person's name and that he should be given a desk job or he should be somewhere else, it's his decision. If it was a valid shooting, the police feel he followed procedure. The district attorney feels he follows procedure. He should not be charged. If he doesn't want to go back out in the field, he shouldn't go out in the field, but he shouldn't lose his job because he did his job.
That's a great point.
He shouldn't be punished.
Exactly. That's a great point. Now, if he is charged, which he's not because they did clear him, but if he was charged, then that would be a different situation to where the law enforcement agency can decide where he's going to be, whether he's going to be fired, whether he's going to have a desk job, and they can make that prerogative. But if he's cleared, then it's his choice on what he wants to do. I completely agree. Great point, Myron. I appreciate that very much. Got to take a break, wrapping up hour number 2. When we come back, hour number 3, we'll continue on with these conversations. Lots of great ones happening, and I do want to continue on with the phone calls. But also, at 8 o'clock, we're going to have Chris Coffey on, CEO of Sunflower Health Plan, as we talk about some of the Kansans struggling with hunger and ways that we can support the Wichita area farmers market and local farmers in the area with their new program, Double Up Food Bucks, helping hunger in the state of Kansas. So we'll talk with Chris Coffey coming up at 8 o'clock as well, CEO of Sunflower Health Plan. Plus, we'll get all your thoughts and calls on all these issues when it comes to Trump's tweets. A lot of people disagreeing with me on this one. When it comes to the NFL and the kneeling of the NFL, kneeling during the national anthem, do you agree, disagree? Is it a day late and a dollar short? Plus the shooting and a swatting issue when it comes to the indictment of the swatter in California, along with a couple other gamers, one in Ohio, one in Wichita. Lots of things happening right here on a Thursday on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Wrapping up hour number 2. By the way, I want you to go to KQAMradio.com real quick. Go to the local shows tab and click on The Voice of Reason. Find the Voice of Reason page at KQAMradio.com. I updated the blog yesterday on there. There's a really interesting conversation that I wanted to have today. I don't know if we'll get to it today, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. But I want you to kind of go into it thinking about it already. It's kind of an interesting, it is I'm a dork, I'm a nerd. There is a math formula on how to preserve freedom and to gauge the amount of freedom and liberty that a society actually has. There's actually a math formula that might be kind of interesting to talk about. We may not get to it on the show today, but go to KQAMradio.com under the local shows tab, find the Voice of Reason, find the Voice of Reason page. You'll see it on the blog right there at the top of the page, and you'll see it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. It's kind of an interesting one. makes you think a little bit, really puts things into perspective. Wrapping up hour number 2, hour number 3 right around the corner. Lots more to get to today. More of your phone calls as well. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay right here.
It's time for Reason.
If you have a $200, $300, $400 cell phone bill every month for you and the family, then you have a problem, because we're paying you what the market actually sets for you and for your job skills. We're paying market value for you, and you're not going to manipulate the market on what the value of your job is just because you can't figure out your own personal budget. That's on you. That's not on me. We need to remember that we need to take on personal responsibility.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. What up? Welcome in. Happy Thursday. It is the pre-Friday celebration, rolling right along. That's the way we like to roll here on the show. Lots to get to today as we are going into a Memorial holiday. We will have our Memorial special, our commemoration tomorrow on the show. We will be doing a best of on Monday for the actual holiday, getting a day off on there. But nonetheless, stay tuned in. We got a lot to get to. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. I tell you what, we've had so many phone calls today. I love it. Let's keep it rolling. Get your thoughts on a lot of the issues happening that we've been talking about throughout the day today, between the swatting issue when it comes to the indictment of the swatters in California, Ohio, and even here in Wichita, when it comes to the NFL making their stance on kneeling or lack thereof when it comes to the national anthem. And, of course, the big one, Donald Trump being able to block or not block people on his Twitter, the major issue, of course, right? Yeah, there you go. But I want to shift gears for just a minute here as we talk about some things happening in the Wichita area and in the Kansas area, and it's a great issue to be focused on. Now, we've seen a 17-year unemployment rate in the state of Kansas, which is a good thing. We're seeing the economy slowly try and tick back up, which is a good thing. It could go a lot better. We have high taxes, property tax, income tax. We have one of the highest sales taxes on food in the country, which is one of the most absurd things that I've ever heard of in my entire life. But because of all these things, or just because of other outside forces, there are needs that we have in Kansas. And according to Feeding America, in Kansas, 1 in 8 people in the state struggle with hunger. Imagine that, 1 in 8 people. That is insane. And I know that we always focus on that a lot during the state fair, which I'm glad that they do. But there's something that we can do as well, an event coming up this weekend to help not only Wichita area farmers and the farmers market and local farmers, but also be able to help individuals when it comes to hunger in the state of Kansas. It's a program with called Double Up Food Bucks, and it's with the Kansas the Sunflower Health Plan. And they're sponsoring this and putting on an event. We're really excited to talk to him. It's the CEO of the Sunflower Health Plan, Mr. Chris Coffey, is on the line with us. Chris, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on the show very much so. First off, let's set the stage on this. I cannot believe it is insane to think that 1 in 8 people in the state of Kansas struggle with hunger. Is that true?
It is true, unfortunately, and that's according to the Hunger Relief Organization, which is a nonprofit. Part of Feeding America. It's more than 350,000 Kansans struggle with hunger. That's, as you mentioned, that's 1 in 8 people and 1 in 6 children in our state.
Wow, that is unbelievable. Talk a little bit about, first up, before we talk about this plan, talk about you guys, the Sunflower Health Plan. What is the organization and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we are a health insurance organization, a managed care organization. We provide quality health care to about 130,000 to 150,000 Kansans across various different products, our Medicare Advantage, our Medicaid, as well as our marketplace products. So we deliver high-quality health care locally here throughout the state of Kansas and are really making a priority to be active in the community and engage members outside of the doctor's office.
Sure. Talk about when it comes to hunger in the state. I know we've been working on this for a while. I do see, it kind of pops up every year right around the state fair time as they try and focus on that, which is a really great motive as well. But this has been going on for a while. I've been in Wichita for about 3 years now and been hearing about the struggle for hunger. And are we getting better? Have we gotten worse? Kind of where have we seen it over the last few years?
Yeah, as a healthcare organization and realizing the social determinants of health are the biggest impact to one's quality of life, Sunflower Health Plan has partnered with many across the state for the farmers market season. And we have certainly seen, as evidenced by the smiles on our members' faces, evidenced by the kids coming in their little red wagons, pulling up with their vouchers to come get their fruits and vegetables. So we know from a quality of life perspective, they really enjoy the farmers markets. And we know that they're using their dollars for fruits and vegetables and eating a much more healthier lifestyle, which we know will translate to healthy living.
Sure. No, absolutely. Talk about this program you guys have been sponsoring, and it works with the Wichita Area Farmers Market, but Double Up Food Bucks. What is the program, and what are you guys doing this weekend?
Yeah, so Double Up Food Bucks is a food incentive program that we're sponsoring to help lower-income families stretch their food dollars, eat healthier, and to support local farmers. So through the program, families that participate in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is also known as SNAP, can receive up to $25 in tokens. And for each dollar spent with their EBT card on eligible items, they can then use those Double Up Food Bucks tokens to buy additional fruits and vegetables on top of their initial purchase. So what Sunflower is doing is helping to sponsor and support the Double Up Food Bucks to spread the dollars available to them to buy more goods. In the Wichita area, Double Up Food Bucks is offered at the Kansas Grown Farmers Market in Wichita and Derby, the Old Timer Farmers Market, and Common Ground Producers and Growers Mobile Market. And to your point, we partnered with the coalition, the YMCA, to offer this. This program has been in Kansas for a few years, but it's the first time it's been in Wichita. Mm-hmm. So this weekend, it was a great time. We'll have our Sunny, who is our sunflower mascot, out there. And Sunny will be out there to provide information and resources to everyone on how they can maintain a healthy diet, as well as have some giveaways for adults and children.
Sure. I know that talking about the SNAP program specifically and the people that do struggle with hunger, we see, the health risk a lot of times when it comes to the price of food and kind of what's being purchased on some of these programs. Are we seeing somewhat of a healthy nutrition when it comes to people using different programs like SNAP, for example, but others as well, or just people that are low income that may not even be on these programs, but just struggling with the food and with the hunger in the state? Do we see healthy choices being made? Have we been able to track some of that, or do we see some not so healthy choices being made when it comes to food?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that with anything, it takes time to really track the outcome of someone who's beginning to eat more healthy. So in terms of data to support whether people are using the dollars to really engage in healthy eating that's producing health within someone, it's hard to monitor that. So at this point, we know that we can gauge through the use of these programs and the use of these vouchers that it restricts them to only being able to buy fruits and vegetables that we know is going to then, of course, produce a healthier lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And that's, I think that's definitely needed in the fact that we can really focus on the healthy eating, not only to eat healthy with the healthy nutrition, but also when it comes to supporting many of the local farmers. And the Wichita Area Farmers Market's a great way to do that because, we talk about agriculture and farming on the show all the time and with our Mid-America Ag Network and the struggles that they go through, and a way that another outlet that we can get the local producers to get their product to be moved and people to enjoy that. That's a win-win for everybody, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and I think that maybe not everyone realizes when you go to the farmer's market and you purchase these fruits and vegetables, you're buying them at the freshest and probably the most tastiest time to purchase them.
Sure.
And so many of these farmers have recipes and cooking tips on how you can use their vegetables and fruits in order to get the most flavor out of them.
Sure.
There's a lot of added benefit you can get from that from just going and buying the food itself.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to admit, I've never been to the farmers market in the area here. How big is it?
It's a big market. I've only been down that area for the farmers market one time, but I was quite impressed with the size of it. It's a big one.
Sure, very good. We're talking with Chris Coffey, CEO of Sunflower Health Plan. Talk about the health in the state. We've had the debate between the expansion of Medicaid, the lack thereof, some of the rural hospitals in the state, and with you guys being involved in healthcare in the state. Talk about the quality from your perspective, where we're at with the health of individuals when it comes to the medical side of it, and where we need to be going, because we could always be improving in the state, but where are we right now when it comes to healthcare in the state of Kansas?
Yeah, well, we're certainly proud to see. Of course, when you look at the 130,000 lives for Medicaid that we service today, we know, and from even looking at those members that are outside of our health plan, what is very encouraging to see is over the last number of years where we've had managed Medicaid in the state, we have had very good quality outcomes. And there's about 86 individual quality measures that each plan is critiqued upon to determine our effectiveness. And we have had tremendous improvements in diabetes. We've had very good improvements with vision and dental. So the population health, again, because you're dealing with populations, takes time to really move the needle. But we've had some very promising metrics to illustrate the improved health of the Kansans.
Well, that's encouraging. That is encouraging to hear when healthcare being kind of the national debate right now on what direction to go. If we're taking care of our own here on the home front, then that's really good to hear. We're talking with the Sunflower Health Plan, coming up with the double up food bucks when it comes to the Wichita area farmers market. Now that we're focusing on the quality of the healthcare, then we can start focusing on the struggle that people have with that hunger. Again, 1 in 8 people struggling with hunger in the state of Kansas. Again, talk to people, let people know what they can do, and the event coming up this week on how they can actually help out.
Yeah, no, again, please come out to the farmers market this weekend there in Wichita. We have a lot of good, fun things out there to help you access food, healthy ways of eating that food, healthy ways to cook that food, and while at the same time supporting our local farmers. So we look forward to seeing you out there this weekend. I
love it. It's going to be a great event. Chris, I really appreciate you coming on the show, my friend. Good luck to you guys this weekend. We'll chat. Love to chat again soon.
Great, thank you.
Hey, appreciate it very much. That's Chris Coffey, CEO of Sunflower Health Plan, getting ready for the double up food bucks at the Wichita area farmers market this weekend. Come out, check it out, and support those guys. Great opportunity right there. 18 minutes past the hour. We got to take a break. We'll open up lines back to you again for the rest of the show when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
23 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Thanks again to Chris Coffey with the Sunflower Health Plan, the struggle for a hunger in the state of Kansas, working on that one. Appreciate it very much. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. A lot of conversation happening today on the Facebook Live feed. Agreeing with me, disagreeing with me. We'll talk about all that and more. Kind of the three big issues today that are the pops, of course. President Donald Trump not being allowed to ban people from his Twitter account. I don't know why. First off, it's kind of a ridiculous assumption that the judge should actually be ruling on this in the first place. Craziness, right? Yeah. Then you got the national anthem with the NFL coming out and saying that now you need to stand for it. And if you don't, either stay in the locker room or we will fine your team, and then the team can decide what to do with that fine, whether just pay it for you or whether to charge you, depending on your stance as a team. Then we have, of course, the swatting incident with the individuals being indicted federally across the nation, even right here in Wichita when it comes to the swatters, and the name of the officer actually being released. We will not say that name on the show because I think that we need to try and not do that. Just my opinion. Your thoughts and calls on all this and more. It's back open lines to you for the rest of the show. 316-721-8255. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, it's Deacon again.
What's happening?
Hey, I just, when I called earlier, I was very angry, and I said something that I regret, and I invoked God when I said it, and I just need to call in and apologize.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. Let's start. You called in. I know you're going through something really, really badly now, and we need to therify you. And being the political therapist that I am, I need to help you with this. What is troubling you, and what do you feel sorry for?
When I called in, I said that I pray to God that those people who are anti-cop get a busy signal when they call 911. And
well, I knew what you meant. Obviously, you don't want to impose any harm on any individual, and that's exactly what law enforcement's there for, is to take those calls.
Absolutely. And when the police were guarding the anti-cop protest last year, and those police officers got shot, the first thing they did was jump in front of civilians that were protesting against them.
Sure.
So I have no right and no place to say what I said.
Well, I appreciate the comment. I mean, I know what you meant, and I know that sometimes in that heat of the moment, things get said like that. But you're right. I mean, the law enforcement's there, and no matter, it's crazy. I mean, just imagine a job to where they attack you, they go after you day in and day out, they call you names, they slander you, and then at the same time, as soon as it happens to them, then you're the first one to respond to take care of them and help them. It's almost like, it kind of reminds me of the parent with a teenage child when the teenage child says, "I hate you," and slams the door and never wants to talk to you again, and then they turn around and ask you for money and you end up giving them $100.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of the same situation, isn't it?
It is. And I appreciate you letting me call in again.
Hey, not a problem, Deacon. My pleasure, and appreciate that comment very much. So we knew what you meant. I mean, we don't want anybody. And if you missed it, it was the comment. Just, I mean, hey, you know what? The people that trash cops nonstop. Well, then if you need the cops, then what's the prerogative or what's the incentive for them to come out and help you when you need them? You trash guns, and then you turn around and have a bodyguard with a gun defending you and protecting you, which doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form. It is the hypocrisy of the left, but, we're the level-headed ones, or we're the ones that actually see common sense, and we're the ones that respond appropriately. And even though, we're kind of the adults in the situation. The progressives are the children. We're the adults. And even though that they hate us and name call, we still love you. We don't agree with you, but we still love you because we are the tolerant ones. We are the accepting ones. We are the lovey-dovey ones that just go along to get along kind of thing, while you're the crazy, angry, like seeing red, not care about anybody else type of thing. So appreciate that call very much, Deacon. Let's go back to the phone line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
It's Wallace.
Wallace, what's happening, sir?
So, you want a solution to the school funding problem?
Yeah, what you got? There you go.
I've got one. Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. He's got 2 young kids that are in the Lindsborg school district. Anyway, but here's my solution. I'll tell you, about him, why he's an example on this. This $1.5 billion that they want to increase spending, I just looked at some numbers. There's roughly 500,000 students in the Kansas schools. You take the $1.5 billion over 5 years and divide that by 500,000, it basically makes the parent responsible for $3,000
sure.
or $600 a year. So you just make that an enrollment fee, and you simply say, look, it's $50 a month. Isn't that worth you paying to have a little? Shouldn't parents have maybe just a little bit more skin in the game when we're educating their kids? And if you don't have, and you got to think about, what is $50 a month? Well, that's scaling back your unlimited data package to maybe a 5 gig package. It's brown bagging it to work twice a week instead of eating lunch at Wendy's. It's 2 cups of Starbucks a week. Is your kid's education not worth that? Now, if you don't have $50 a month for your kid, then I'll tell you what we'll do. At the end of the year, when you file your taxes and you're going to get that $6,000 tax refund, we're going to take $600 out of it, and you get the difference.
Just going to be able to take it back there. That's an idea, but then, of course, they're going to come back and, number one, say, well, now we need to redistribute it to where if you make more money, they need to pay more into the system because there are people that can't afford it, so we need to subsidize them. Number 2 is that, well, we're just going to continuously increase that every year because you're right, what's $50? So then what's $70? What's $100? What's $150? You're already paying stuff. You're paying for Starbucks coffees while you see everybody loiter around. Why can't you afford that?
And Andy, I hear the music, but my friend in Lindsborg, him and his wife had 2 kids that went through kindergarten in Lindsborg. They used to have half-day kindergarten. He ended up paying $900 extra to have all-day kindergarten. Now, my friend is frugal. He brown bags it to work. He doesn't drive a super nice car.
He ended up doing that. Hate to cut you off, Wallace. We're out of time, my friend. Bottom of the hour news coming up. That's an interesting concept. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Right on! Let's do it! Rock that world! Rock that world!
Give him a call at 721-TALK.
Oh, yeah, making it happen today on a Thursday, the pre-Friday celebration underway, baby. We're Carpe Diem all the way. It's the way we roll. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Lots of big news coming out today. Lots of great discussions. A heck of a lot of phone calls, and let's keep it rolling. 316-721-TALK. I do want to bring back up, in case you missed it, it is the big, crazy, awesome breaking news of the day. It is the news that no one can survive with today in any way, shape, or form. Of course, a federal judge coming out blocking President Donald Trump from blocking people on his Twitter account. Now, first off, why a judge in any way, shape, or form thinks that this is an important issue to actually have to address boggles my mind. I just don't get it. Number two, are you violating the First Amendment, which they say by blocking someone as an elected official, you are violating their First Amendment freedom of speech, which is completely absurd, in my opinion, in any way, shape, or form, because it is your personal account and you can block whoever you want to on there. Now, should you? I don't know. I like the dialogue and I like the discussion. I've only blocked 2 people off of my Facebook account on the Voice of Reason page because that they were just trolls. They, no matter what I posted, no matter what I said, no matter what they were always there to leave some kind of snide comment. And it's fine after a while, but after a while it gets old, it gets annoying, and you just block it. Just done with it. You don't want to deal with it. Because that's some people, their life. They try and be, the Mr. Tough guy or Mrs. Tough person, behind the social media, behind the computer, and then they just go on there. That's their whole purpose in life, is to go and try and trash people on social media, name call and try and go after them and be the trolls. So is this a violation of the freedom of speech or First Amendment by blocking someone, or do they have the prerogative to do so as an elected official? Again, this would be an example, I think, of you not actually owning your social media account, but the company owning it and telling you what to do. Also, I see a little bit of hypocrisy in this when it comes to the fact that we're telling someone that they can't block people off their social media account, but yet the company itself can actually suspend your account if you're on Twitter or on Facebook because of a conservative message. So on your own personal pages, if you're trying to express your opinion, then that's not a violation of the First Amendment because you're expressing your opinion on your own page, and you can suspend people for that. But if you block someone from trolling you on your page, they can still voice their opinion on their own page. They can still make their statements. They can still do whatever they want to on their own page. But if they try and comment on someone else's page and you block them for it, then that apparently is a violation of the First Amendment. I don't quite understand where that linking up is. I don't quite get it. And it's, to me, completely absurd for this judge to actually make this decision. Your thoughts on this and more, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's go to line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. This is Mrs. Voice of Reason.
Uh-oh, Mrs. Voice of Reason. What's happening?
Well, I have a nasty sinus infection. I cannot hear, but I have to argue with you, and that's why I called in.
You got to argue with me? This isn't good.
Well, I have to, and the reason why is I am very surprised by your stance on this.
Okay.
And I'm going to persuade you and the listeners that agree with you why I disagree with you.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, trolls, you know what? Haters are going to hate. And I have to agree with you on personal pages, that's personal. But on politician pages, they should be public. And I don't think that they should be blocked. I think that if you're a good enough politician and you're a good enough leader, the supporters, they'll fight off the trolls. That's not a battle a politician has to worry about. If you're strong enough, your supporters will fight them off. So that's my first say. Second say is if I elect somebody based off of their campaign promises, like I did for Donald Trump, and he were to back out of all of those and sway the other way after he got elected, I have that right because he works for me in office to represent me and my voice. I have every right to call him out if he's not upholding his end of the bargain. And if he has a right to block me, silence me, then isn't that a form of communism?
Well,
isn't that a form of tyranny?
And that's
so
an interesting.
That's against my First Amendment right. Who cares about the trolls? But what about the people that put them into office?
Well, that's an interesting comment, and I did bring that up in the first hour when it came to the progressive side, who, first off, like their safe space. If they like social media being a safe space for them, why they're even concerned about not being able to see Donald Trump tweets, because that usually triggers them on a daily basis anyways when they're looking for their safe space. Not to mention the media, who despises Donald Trump's Twitter account because he is actually releasing information to the people directly, as opposed to the filter that the media, in the spin the media gets to put on it before relaying it to the people. So you would think the progressives and the Democrats would actually be loving the fact that he's actually blocking people on his Twitter account.
No, because you know what? This is actually making us supporters band together. And we're able to see the lies the media is giving us. We're able to see the hypocrisy. We're able to band together. And we actually like having somebody in office who isn't hiding behind closed doors, but actually, or going to the media and having anything misconstrued, we're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. Mm-hmm. And that's why they, so that's why, as supporters, we're agreeing with this. But at the same time, though, I mean, this goes for any politician. Don't let us elect you and then sway the other way and then block us if we're calling you up for doing a bad job.
Well, that's true, and I don't want to see any of that, because I do want some of the accountability held there. But if someone's just on there saying, you're a jerk, you're a jerk, you're a jerk.
But if you know what? If they're a good enough politician, their supporters will fight the trolls. That is something that they have to grow thick skin about. They have to ignore it. And if they're good enough, their supporters will fight off the trolls. That is not a battle they have to fight.
Just let it
Their
ride.
battle is to uphold their promises. That's what their battle is, and to fight for what we elected them for.
Well, here's a question. What about the hashtag fake news that come out on there, that one of the individuals was a journalist that tried to comment on one of Donald Trump's tweets about something about Russia winning the election, and Russia won this one, and you're part of the Russian scheme, and yada, yada, yada. That's not true, obviously, and all the investigations show that, and it's fake news, and that's one of them that he blocked, and he's one of them, that one of the plaintiffs that started the lawsuit.
Well, I would say grow some thick skin. Let them say what they want to say. The truth always comes out in the end. And like I said, if you're good enough, which in my opinion he is, and if you're good enough, your supporters will stick by you, and the truth will always come out in the end.
Very interesting. All right. Well, the Mrs. Voice of Reason disagreeing on me with me on that one. Let me ask you this, though. You can attest that we did not watch at home a single NFL game last season. We would not watch it because of the kneeling, because of the protests, and we would not do that. Now the NFL coming out and saying that they will fine teams if their players kneel on the field during the national anthem. Does that make you want to watch any games this year, honey?
Absolutely not. And I love football. You know that. I mean, since the year we've got married, I don't think I've ever missed a game until last year. But I have to disagree with you again. I feel like a troll. But I have to disagree with you again. You made a comment earlier, and you played the little clip. We won. Hooray. Well, no, we didn't. If this was really important to the NFL, they would have nipped this in the bud 2 years ago when Kaepernick, kneeled. They would have nipped this in the bud. Not until their ratings dropped and their merchandise sales went low, and, it started to affect them as a business. So here's the thing. Now they're trying to make a compromise, and we're stupid enough to be sold on it. And I am still outraged by this. Yeah, I'm glad they finally decided to say, you know what, no kneeling on the field. It's about time, but it's a little too late. The other thing is okay, if you don't want to protest, go behind closed doors. If you're going to protest, go ahead and go behind closed doors. We don't want to see it, and your teams can handle it the way that they want to handle it. Well, here's the thing. The protest is still happening, whether it's right there in front of us or behind closed doors. So how is this really a solution? How is this even a victory?
Well, I see if they stay in the locker room, then they are protesting, but we don't have to see it, so they can do their silent protests in that sense. We don't have to actually see it, and then we can go on. I mean, I do see this almost as a victory. We dropped the ratings. We hurt the advertisers. No one watched the games last year. Because of this, they're trying to address it now, because it is. You're right. It's their business, and they should have addressed it beforehand, but they are addressing it now. So in a sense, we got what we wanted. We voiced made our voice loud enough, and that should be somewhat of a triumph.
But with how much that these guys are getting paid, and they are paid so much money, it's ridiculous. when this actually all started out as a poor man's game, and look at how much money is involved. And then, they're out there and they can't even have the respect to stand on their own 2 feet, not only for their team, not only for their fans, but also for their country. And with how much they're getting paid, they can't stand on their own 2 feet for about a minute and put their hand up to their heart and pay some respect. I'm sorry, but I'm still against this. And I just think that finally this was just a way for them to raise their bottom dollar and kind of come to a mutual compromise.
The wise words of Mrs. Voice of Reason. You may have been the troll today, but you're kind of a hot troll, so I guess it's okay. So appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, dear.
There we go. The wise words. See, there you go. Whatever. It's the woman kind of. I don't know if I can argue with that stuff. Appreciate it very much. Let's try and take some other phone calls here. Your thoughts on all this, 316-721-8255. I guess we're not going to be watching still any NFL games come this season, which I'm okay with. I mean, look, I'm torn on this one. Protests are supposed to change something, and that's what we did. We protested, and we saw a change. Now the question is it enough change for you to go back and actually support it? Can we celebrate and say,
We did it! We did it! We did it! Yay!
or is it just not enough and it's a day late and $1 short, and no matter what they try and change now, you're still not going to support them? They did take a hit when it came to the ratings. They did take a hit when it came to their revenue, and now they have competition coming out in another year or two when it comes to the XFL, with Vince McMahon coming out with his football team as well with the other football league, trying to create some competition. So is it a day late and $1 short, or should we say, you know what, we did what we set out to do. We dropped the ratings. We hurt the advertisers and hurt the teams, even though they're still getting paid more and more and more, which is crazy. But they're trying to do something about it now, and at least you did something. Or is it just not worth it? Your thoughts on all that. 316-721-8255. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. What's your name? Hello. Going once, going twice. Let me put you back on hold. I heard you in the background there, but we'll try you back in just a second. Let's take another phone call here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name? Nope, I guess we dropped off on that one. Let's try this one. 721-8255-721-TALK. Good morning. What's your name? No, I guess we're not having phone issues, are we? Let's try another one. Line number 4. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Art.
Art, how are you, sir?
Well, very good.
Good.
Just wanted to correct a piece of old news for a little bit of the lighter side.
Okay.
Last Saturday, of course, everybody was listening to or watching the royal wedding. After that was over with, I heard on a network radio newscast that everything went off without a hitch. And I said, that can't be true. They just got hitched.
I like that. That's a nice one there. Well done. Well played on that one. I can say that I did not watch the royal wedding last week, and I know everybody was all in a fluff about that. Look, I did not pay tribute to a king or queen or a prince or princess, so therefore that one doesn't entice me, but well played. I like that. Let's take another phone call here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name? Hello. Going once, going twice. All right. Not sure if that's a line or if that's just the bad line on their end, but let's take another one here and get your thoughts. Good morning. What's your name?
Roy.
Hey, good morning, Roy. What's happening?
Well, I was actually listening to a different radio station earlier this morning as I was driving to work, and the two individuals on there said it didn't make them any difference whether they protested or not. And I thought to myself, well, I guess I don't have to listen to you anymore because I served in the service. I served this country. And if you're not going to support standing for the flag, I don't need to listen to you.
Well, amen to that. I appreciate you swinging on over this way then. And I can only imagine who that could have been.
Yeah.
There you go. So the protest, what do you think? Is this going to make you watch the NFL games again because now they've tried to change their policies, or is it just a day late and $1 short and you don't care?
No, if they actually change the policy and come and start punishing these people that don't want to respect us, then I will watch it. Otherwise, sure. I will not.
Well, and that's the policy change that came out yesterday, is that the NFL, all the NFL owners made the decision, along with all 32 owners of each team, all just came out and said, yeah, you know what, this is fine. So that way they can go around the NFL Players Association, the union for the players, and if they kneel or sit during the anthem, if they disrespect it in any way, shape, or form, the team itself will be fined, and then the team can decide whether they're going to relay that fine back onto the player that actually did it, or whether they support the player to do that, and the team itself is just going to cough up the cash to the NFL franchise. So it's going to be really interesting to see what team by team actually what their decisions are, or they can actually stay in the locker room and still kind of do a silent protest that way, but it's not in the face of the public. So they're trying to change it. It's just whether people actually will accept that as a good enough decision or whether it doesn't go far enough.
I don't think it goes far enough.
Don't think it goes far enough.
I think they need to actually find the individual.
Sure, the individual specifically. I would agree with you on that one. I think that you're right. It is, look, when you have a work environment and you have a warehouse full of individuals that's wearing uniforms, that's wearing the blue collar, that's wearing the shirt or whatever, and one person slacking off and not doing their job, do you punish the entire squad or do you punish the individual that actually did that? So I'm with you. I think that they should find the player individually. I think that we should take it another step as well and say that if you're not going to actually go through the process of the entire game, which includes, by the way, the opening ceremony that includes the national anthem, then you're just not going to play. Not only are you going to get fined, but you're just not going to play. And I'd be okay with that decision as well. I don't care what your stats are. I don't care how good or not good you may be on the field. If you're not going to follow the procedures, you're just not going to play. And I'd like to take it to that level as well. Appreciate the call very much, Roy, and welcome aboard. Sorry the other dual team didn't quite fit up to the standards there, but you're welcome here very much so. Let's go back to the phone, shall we? Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, that's Gary.
What's going on, Gary?
I tell you what, Andy, you got a smoking hot program today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, I got another quote for you. This is from Proverbs 25:17.
Okay.
Withdraw thy foot from thy neighbor's house, lest he be wary of thee, and so hate thee. Just for frequent callers, you know.
Oh, no, look, I love all the callers. I do try and limit it to one, maybe 2 calls in a show if there's something going on. But yeah, we try and keep the frequency limited, so that way we have the opportunity for other people to call in and to voice their opinion.
And just to make a point, I'm going to ask a question.
Go for it.
Is this a Christian station?
It is not, no. It is a news talk station.
Okay. But you have, after your show, you have, I forgot his name.
Mike Gallagher, yes.
Thank you. He's a Christian, and he has, he's outspoken about it, and has raised, right now he's raising $200 per child to send them to camp.
Sure.
He's doing very Christian things.
Sure.
And I know from your comments that you're a Christian also.
And we got Dave Ramsey that uses the financial side in a religious context as well.
Yes. Well, my point is that this people can say this is not a Christian nation, but it is a nation of Christians.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And it's funny how when we talk conservative values and traditional values in the nation, that we don't have to necessarily be the obsessed Bible thumping, kind of religious individual, but how religious messages get intertwined with conservative messages at the same time. So when we are promoting conservatism, we're promoting Christianity and the religious base at the same time.
Yes, we are, and I'll leave you on this one last thing. Have you heard about Keith Ellison?
I have not, no.
Well, he's got a problem because those rascally Republicans, they're going to jails and they're having Bible studies, and that's drawing people to the Republican Party. And you'll have to check it out. That's kind of a poor paraphrase of, but basically he was complaining that Democrats were losing this portion of the voting population.
Sure. Well, it makes sense. Gary, I appreciate that. We got to take a break, but you're absolutely right. I mean, when we are open and accepting and we actually show, traditional Christian values as a conservative and even as a progressive as well sometimes. But when you actually promote these values, then we show how open we are, how accepting we are. And when we talk about constitutionalism and conservatism, there are the arguments that say that we weren't based on Christian values when we built the Constitution. But it's funny how when we teach one or the other, they kind of get intertwined and they have the parallel agendas going forward, whether you're talking about religion or whether you're talking about conservatism. It's crazy how that works, right? Really funny. 6 minutes to the top of the hour. Got to take a break. Wrapping up the show today. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Boy, oh boy, what a show today. We love it. We appreciate it very much. All the callers, thank you so much. What a great conversation. Tomorrow being Friday, on your Free for All Friday, we'll open up back lines to you. You can talk about any of this stuff again and more. We will have our Memorial Day special tomorrow as well, probably tie into the national anthem and the to the kneeling for that as well. Guys, how do you think we do today?
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens. What? It ends.
There we are. Way to wrap it up today. Love it. Appreciate it. Everybody enjoy. This is your show as always. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. That's what we're here for, baby. We love it every single day. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM. Have a great Thursday, everybody.